Can he stop a mob? Can Jack Fairfax stop a mob? Well, I should smile. Ex-desperado, 19 scalps on his string. Can he? Oh, I say. As we tore up the gulch, distant cries and shouts and yells rose faintly on the still air and grew steadily in strength as we raced along. Roar after roar burst out, stronger and stronger, nearer and nearer. And at last, when we closed up upon the multitude massed in the open area in front of the tavern, the crash of sound was deafening. Some brutal roughs from Dolly's Gorge had Holmes in their grip, and he was the calmest man there. A contemptuous smile played about his lips, and if any fear of death was in his British heart, his iron personality was master of it, and no sign of it was allowed to appear. Come to a vote, men. This from one of the Dolly gang, Shadbelly Higgins. Quick, is it hang or shoot? Neither, shouted one of his comrades. He'll be alive again in a week, burning s the only permanency for him. The gangs from all the outlying camps burst out in a thundercrash of approval, and went struggling and surging toward the prisoner, and closed around him, shouting, Fire! Fire's the ticket! They dragged him to the horse post, backed him against it, chained him to it, and piled wood and pine cones around him waist deep. Still the strong face did not blench, and still the scornful smile played about the thin lips. A match, fetch a match. Shadbelly struck it, shaded it with his hand, stooped, and held it under a pine cone. A deep silence fell upon the mob. The cone caught, a tiny flame flickered about it a moment or two. I seemed to catch the sound of distant hoofs. It grew more distinct, still more and more distinct, more and more definite, but the absorbed crowd did not appear to notice it. The match went out. The man struck another, stooped, and again the flame rose. This time it took hold and began to spread. Here and there men turned away their faces. The executioner stood with the charred match in his fingers, watching his work. The hoofbeats turned a projecting crag, and now they came thundering down upon us. Almost the next moment there was a shout. The sheriff! And straightway he came tearing into the midst, stood his horse almost on his hind feet, and said, Fall back, you gutter snipes. He was obeyed by all but their leader. He stood his ground, and his hand went to his revolver. The sheriff covered him promptly and said, Drop your hand, you parlor desperado, kick the fire away, now unchain the stranger. The parlor desperado obeyed. Then the sheriff made a speech, sitting his horse at martial ease, and not warming his words with any touch of fire, but delivering them in a measured and deliberate way, and in a tone which harmonized with their character and made them impressively disrespectful. You're a nice lot, now ain't you? Just about eligible to travel with this bilk here, Shadbelly Higgins, this loud-mouthed sneak that shoots people in the back and calls himself a desperado. If there's anything I do particularly despise, it's a lynching mob. I've never seen one that had a man in it. It has to tally up 100 against one before it can pump up pluck enough to tackle a sick tailor. It's made up of cowards, and so is the community that breeds it. And 99 times out of 100, the sheriff's another one. He paused, apparently to turn that last idea over in his mind and taste the juice of it. Then he went on. The sheriff that lets a mob take a prisoner away from him is the lowest down coward there is. By the statistics, there was 182 of them drawing sneak pay in America last year. By the way it's going, pretty soon there'll be a new disease in the doctor book's sheriff complaint. That idea pleased him, anyone could see it. People will say, Sheriff sick again? Yes, got the same old thing. And next there'll be a new title. People won't say, he's running for Sheriff of Rapaho County, for instance. They'll say, he's running for Coward of Rapaho. Lord, the idea of a grown-up person being afraid of a lynch mob. He turned an eye on the captive and said, Stranger, who are you, and what have you been doing? My name is Sherlock Holmes, and I have not been doing anything. It was wonderful, the impression which the sound of that name made on the sheriff, notwithstanding he must have come posted. He spoke up with feeling, and said it was a blot on the country that a man whose marvelous exploits had filled the world with their fame and their ingenuity, and whose histories of them had won every reader's heart by the brilliancy and charm of their literary setting, should be visited under the stars and stripes by an outrage like this. He apologized in the name of the whole nation, and made Holmes a most handsome beau, and told Constable Harris to see him to his quarters and hold himself personally responsible if he was molested again. Then he turned to the mob and said, Hunt your holes, you scum? Which they did. Then he said, Follow me, Shadbelly, I'll take care of your case myself. No, keep your pop gun. Whenever I see the day that I'll be afraid to have you behind me with that thing, it'll be time for me to join last year's 182. And he rode off in a walk, Shadbelly following. When we were on our way back to our cabin, toward breakfast time, We ran upon the news that Fetlock Jones had escaped from his lockup in the night and is gone. Nobody is sorry. Let his uncle track him out if he likes. It is in his line. The camp is not interested. 5. 10 days later. James Walker is all right in body now, and his mind shows improvement too. I start with him for Denver tomorrow morning. Next night, brief note, mailed at a way station. As we were starting this morning, Hillier whispered to me, "Keep this news from Walker until you think it's safe and not likely to disturb his mind and check his improvement." The ancient crime he spoke of was really committed, and by his cousin, as he said, we buried the real criminal the other day, the unhappiest man that has lived in a century, Flint Buckner. His real name was Jacob Fuller. There, mother, by help of me, an unwitting mourner, your husband and my father is in his grave. Let him rest.